After tours of duty in Pampa and Amarillo, Melanie Miller landed at Houston's KTRH in 1984. She quickly rose through the ranks, from part-time weekend desk assistant to morning editor to news director, managing a 32-person news team, the largest radio newsroom in Texas. Within 18 months of assuming the news director post, Melanie had guided KTRH to its best ratings in 5 years, number 1 Monday through Sunday, number 1 in morning drive, and number 1 middays. During her tenure at KTRH, Melanie covered 2 wars, Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm, the G7 Economic Summit, hosted by President George H.W. Bush in Houston, a papal visit to Texas, local, state, and national elections, both 1988 national political conventions, and 28 space shuttle missions. After leaving KTRH in 1991, Melanie became president of Media Consultants, a full-service crisis communications and media training company. By 2018, Melanie and her team had trained more than 8,000 spokespersons at over 200 corporations and government agencies worldwide. These days, Melanie donates her talents to Houston's Volunteer Center and its St. Nick program, along with helping her neighborhood civic association and church with monthly newsletters and special events. Additionally, she writes both fiction and nonfiction, publishing under her nom de plume, Melanie Ormond. Today, the Texas Radio Hall of Fame salutes Melanie Miller.
So I bet y'all didn't realize we've got 2 halls of fame today. We've got the radio and the hair. Did you see that? Oh, Lord. Anyway, I'm beyond that, as you can tell now. I stand here before you because of special people. I call them my heroes and my sheroes. Let me tell you. It's 1980. I'm 22 years old. I'm a college graduate with a broadcast journalism degree, ready to set the world on fire. And I'm at home living with my parents because I can't get a job. The TV people say, well, darling, you're too little. You can't carry that equipment. And I'm going, well, okay, whatever. And then the phone rings at my parents' house. It's Warren Hassey. He's the general manager of KPDN in my hometown. And he's got a job for me. He needs a news lady. So I went and I interviewed him. He interviewed me. He hired me the next day. I walked into the station, 4:30 in the morning. Morning Jock looks at me and says, who are you? And I said, well, I'm the new news girl. And he looked me up and he looked me down and he said, just between you and us, honey, girls don't belong on the air. That dude lit my ambition. In Pampa, Patty Johnson, who was the only other female on the market, she and I became friends. She had a radio sisterhood. It was wonderful. Neither of us was alone. In 1983, I became news director in Lubbock, KTLK Radio. It was the first news talk station in West Texas and the South Plains. My boss, Jerry Hudson, opened all my ideas. Whatever you want to do the newscast, anything after that's fine. So my first news series was week-long exploration of the struggle of the gay and lesbian community in Lubbock. The telephones lit up, they exploded, and Jerry never blinked an eye. There in Lubbock was Jane Prince Jones. She was the host of our big talk show in the morning. Jane had her own radio sisterhood. She also had a Rolodex that she opened for me. I could get any story I wanted. She'd been living in it 30 years. And Jane gave me a wonderful piece of advice that I've always remembered. She said, you remember, you are in service to your listeners. When KTLK sold, I went to San Antonio. Mark Watkins, WOAI Radio. He said, I don't have any openings, but I really like your resume, and I think you're ready for Houston. I'm going, Houston? He said, yeah. News talk radio, they need a lot of bodies. You be one. 2 weeks later, I was working at KTRH for $6 an hour, 2 to 10 a.m., and happier than I could ever be. I moved in with my sister because she had a free bedroom. $6 an hour, you can't pay rent. And by the way, when I started at KTRH, that was 40 years ago this weekend. That first shift, though, was really, really rough. And part of the reason is I'm partly deaf. I wear hearing aids in both ears. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever been into a major market radio newsroom, but it's loud. Because that's back in the days of electric typewriters, police scanners, teletypes, wire machines, the news tip hotline, and plus telephones ringing. I was overwhelmed. And one of my jobs was to call all of the law enforcement agencies in the Gulf Coast every 2 hours, see if anything was going on. I couldn't hear what they were saying. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to screw it up and I'm going to be fired. Somehow I got through that morning. I really don't know how, but I did. After my shift, I went back to my sister's house and she said, hey, how'd it go, Mary Lynn? She's here today. I said, how'd it go? And I burst into tears. What's wrong? I can't hear. I can't hear what they're saying. I can't keep doing this. And the more I talked, the redder her face got, and there were tears in her eyes. And she, all of a sudden, she grabbed her purse, grabbed her car keys, grabbed my hand and said, you're coming with me. She took me to Radio Shack, and she bought me this little telephone amplifier. She said, I'm ready now. But I've got to say that any success I had at KTRH, I ended up going part-time. I was a part-time weekend DA. I worked my way up to evening editor, morning editor, blah, 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 blah. My biggest hero is here today, right there, Laura Morris, director. She was the director of news and programming. She somehow got hold of my resume and started creating opportunities for me. I was working then not only in the newsroom, but also in programming. I was producing a talk show because they needed vacation relief. She taught me business news with a wonderful person, unnamed. But again, lots of opportunities. She talked me up. I ended up full-time evening editor, then full-time morning editor. I got busted off from the morning editor during a little storm called Hurricane Bonnie. I was assigned to the international news, and all I can tell you is that 72 hours after that debacle, I was the news manager. I was the news manager, and that's because of Laura. That's also because of Michael Packard, who was the station manager, had a progressive attitude about women. He built an all-female team, and even better than that, folks, Jay Jones, who you just met, was cool with all of it. And as a matter of fact, he not only supported that, he and Michael and Laura supported me being bumped up to news director. And at 29 years old, I was the news director of the largest radio news team in Texas. And it's not on me, folks. It's not on them, because they saw something I couldn't see. And they said, try this, try a little bit of this. And they were there all the way through. How many of you, I just have a question, how many of you had your station owners come to your wedding? Jay Jones came to mine. You know what I'm saying? Jay Jones, Laura, and Michael. When I got sick and had to have emergency stomach surgery, Jay's calling me from the hospital, calling me at the hospital, trying to bust a stitch. I just want to get well. But that's the kind of man he was, the environment that got created, and why the station did so well. Laura's back there shaking her head. Jay, it's like, that was on you, buddy. Thank you. And for my family, my stepdaughter Angela is here. Thank you so much. Drove over from Flower Mound. And my favorite niece and favorite nephew, Zach and Jenny, came up with their mother, Mary Lynn. she did the phone amplifier. And there's one other little story I want to tell you. Back in 1984, I met a guy named Chuck Wolf. He was the news director at KIKK Radio, crosstown competition. We dated, we competed, then we got married. What's interesting is a month from today is our 35th wedding anniversary. Some of you were there, Jay and Laura and others. I want to bring up a question here. When I got, the list came out that I was inducted into the hall, one of my friends said, well, this makes you and Chuck the first couple on radio. Well, no, it's not. I checked. Mary McCoy, who you heard about and saw earlier, she and her husband, Harold Coker, who was one of my engineers at KTRH, they are the first couple. Okay, that's fine. They're the first couple. I want to argue the point that Chuck and I are the first couple of news.
Yeah, there you go.
So I got us a shirt. Chuck was inducted